Hi, peeps. You're listening to She's My Cherry Pie, the baking podcast from the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessie Sheehan. I'm a baker, recipe developer, and author of 4 baking books, including Snackable Bakes. In each episode, I hang out with some of the sweetest bakers around and take a deep dive into their signature bakes. My guest today is Lisa Steele. Lisa is a 5th-generation chicken keeper, a Maine master gardener, TV personality, and the founder of Fresh Eggs Daily, her brand and blog, where she shares tips on raising backyard chickens, gardening, and living seasonally. She's also a cookbook author and just released her 2nd book, In Season, 125-plus sweet and savory recipes celebrating simple, fresh ingredients. Lisa is based in Maine, where she lives on a farm with nearly 3 dozen chickens, ducks, and geese. She has a deep knowledge of all things eggs and seasonal cooking, and she's committed to using fresh, locally sourced ingredients. She joins me today to talk about her new book. She tells me about her love of baking and about the first cake she ever baked, an angel food cake, which makes sense since it requires a lot of eggs, growing up across the street from her grandparents' chicken farm, and about her own chicken-keeping journey. Then Lisa walks me through her Finnish oven pancake recipe from In Season. I loved learning about how both her mother and grandmother made Finnish pancakes for her when she was little, about why a smooth batter is so important, and about how resting can contribute to the wonderful look of the pancake post-bake. You're going to love hearing from Lisa, so stay tuned for our chat. You can find today's recipe at cherrybombe.substack.com. If you love our show, did you know that we publish a free baking newsletter every Saturday to correspond with each new episode? Check out Cherry Bombe Substack to subscribe to our She's My Cherry Pie newsletter today, where you'll get exclusive insights about my guests on the show, their recipes, and other fun baking news and tips. Plus, check out our other free newsletters, where you'll find the latest food and fashion news and browse through our recipe catalog, which is filled with some really great recipes. While you're there, consider becoming a paid Substack subscriber to get access to exclusive content from Cherry Bombe Magazine, invites to our monthly Bomb Squad meetings with industry pros, and discounts to events like our annual Jubilee Conference. A subscription is just $6 per month or $55 a year. Learn more at cherrybombe.substack.com or click the link in our show notes. Let's chat with today's guest. Lisa, so excited to have you on She's My Cherry Pie and to talk pannukakku, a.k.a. Finnish pancakes, with you and so much more.
Hi, Jessie. This is so long overdue. We've known each other for a couple of years now. We've never chatted formally.
Yay! Can you share your earliest baking memory? And I wondered if it was the angel food cake with your mom.
Yes. The infamous angel food cake. I was always kind of standing on a stool and stirring things and whatever. But yeah, that's probably my earliest because we have a photo of it. I was probably, 9 years old making an angel food cake for my mom for her birthday. We had chickens and we always had tons of eggs, and angel food cake was just one of the first things that I remember making upside down on my dad's beer bottle.
Oh,
I'm allowed to say that.
Yes, of course you are. And then what about an early baked good eating memory? It can be something that you ate at home. It can be something from the gas station or the corner store or...
So my mom was way ahead of her time, and we ate whole wheat bread, we ate rice cakes, we ate tofu. She was all into natural foods and that, so she loved to bake, but we didn't have sweets all that often, and they were always homemade. And I remember she made like a rolled cookie with green and brown. You'd roll up the cookie roll and then slice it, so it would be like a spiral.
We call them pinwheels or whirligigs.
Okay. Yep. That's what she made. And it was probably hard for her because she knew she shouldn't be feeding her kids a steady diet of sweets, but she was a great baker. It wasn't frequent, so it made it that much more special.
You really say that your true passion from when you were little was baking. You always liked to cook, but you really loved to bake. And then after that sort of angel food experience, were you starting to sort of bake more on your own in your mom's kitchen?
Well, I got my baking Girl Scout badge. I do remember that. Also melted all the handles of her pots because she stored her pots in the oven. When I turned on the oven to preheat it, melted all her pot handles, which didn't go over very well. I wanted to be an accountant, and I think that that's how my mind works. Like very precise numbers. There's a reason and an order, and you don't mess with things, and there's a right answer and a wrong answer. And I think baking is very much that mindset, kind of like accounting.
I agree. I'm a former lawyer, and I think for the same reason the law appealed to me, because I liked the rigidity of it.
Right.
And I know it's not popular for people who like to riff when they bake or
Right.
riff when they cook.
Then you realize how boring lawyering is. Just like I realized how boring
100%.
accounting is. And I was like, I think I'm just going to bake it.
Yeah, baking is not boring. So you grew up across the street in Massachusetts from your grandparents' chicken farm. And you raised chickens as a kid, yes, both on your own farm, or you guys had a barn, maybe less of a farm,
right?
But
yeah,
and probably over at your grandmother's house as well. So raising chickens are in your blood. But I loved that you wrote that your grandmother did not put little curtains on her hen house, and she did not name them. So you have kind of taken chicken raising to a whole new level.
To a new level, yeah.
Any food, TV growing up that you were watching maybe with your mom or on your own, or cookbooks?
Yes. Well, obviously, everyone had that Plaid cookbook, and she also
That's the Better Homes and Garden one.
Yeah, the Better Homes and Garden.
Yep.
She had the joy of cooking, and she also had the Finnish cookbook, which I have now with all my mom's notes in it. She cooked from that all the time, and she wrote notes about, liked this, didn't like this, too sweet, use a bigger pan, whatever. I love that. And, of course, we used to watch Julia Child, Yan Can Cook. I loved really early on. It was probably mostly Julia. I don't know who else was on. Early on. And then obviously, the Marthas and the Inas and the Rachels, like we all watched,
You fled your rural farm life for college. And after college, you had a bunch of lackluster jobs. You mentioned accounting as one of them. And then you met your husband. You moved to a farm with him in Virginia. And so began your chicken journey, which is such a big part of who you are, in addition to being a fantastic cookbook writer. And I love this. Even though you'd been pecked as a child, you were willing to go back in with the chickens. Tell us about how you went from purchasing those chicks with your husband to being inspired to sort of write about what was happening with you and your flock and how that came to be.
Yeah, I wasn't really working. I was kind of doing odd jobs. But I used to work on Wall Street, actually, after college. And then, living in basically rural Virginia near a Navy base, there weren't a lot of job opportunities. So we got these chicks. It was the recession. Everyone was raising chickens and goats and stuff. I kind of felt like I knew what I was doing because I had chickens as a kid. And then I realized I was actually in charge of keeping them alive, which is a lot more. So I started reading and researching, and there wasn't really a lot out there. But I started, Facebook was the big thing, and I started answering questions. I realized I knew more than I thought I knew, and also more than pretty much everybody else who had just gotten started with chickens. And I started answering questions, and that led to a book deal, 2 years later after I started my blog. And I just thought it was such a great way to teach people, I'm not going to say the right way, but give people a really good foundation. There wasn't a lot out there about backyard flocks. There was a lot about meat birds or, industrial type setups. But backyard flocks, there really was not a lot out there at that time.
I also loved that you wrote about the recession, but also that sort of the homestead movement was a big deal. You were not alone in wanting to sort of make your own food and have animals, etc. And also that you wanted to be a modern-day Laura Ingalls Wilder, which I love those books so much.
I think everybody did back then, and it's kind of, they romanticized it and still do. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, it was a great choice, and it was definitely right time, right place. I just happened to have the right information that people were looking for. I wanted to raise the chickens differently than my grandmother. We weren't going to eat them. We named them all. I wanted to do it naturally, and that message just really resonated with all these people that were growing gardens and milking their goats. And so I was incredibly lucky to just start doing that at that time.
Is that a choice that you're saying, raising them naturally as opposed to organic? Or is it basically the same thing?
I mean, I guess basically the same thing. Technically organic is all certified, but naturally as opposed to giving them antibiotics or I work a lot on, like I do in my own life, is keeping yourself healthy.
Yeah.
So doing a lot of preventive stuff instead of just waiting to get sick. And I think that was the difference.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Are you looking for a little more cherry bomb in your life? Our annual magazine subscription is the perfect way to stay inspired all year long. You'll receive our beautiful new issues delivered right to your door with free shipping. Each issue is filled with thoughtful interviews, beautiful full-color photos, delicious recipes from the season's best cookbooks, and stories celebrating the women and creatives in the food and drink space. Subscriptions are $100 a year, and you can also gift one to the food lover in your life. Head to cherrybombe.com or click the link in our show notes to subscribe today. Now back to our guest. You ended up in Maine, which is very much part of your brand now. Your TV show takes place there, etc. And you are now a fifth-generation female New England chicken keeper, or just fifth generation?
I mean, I would say female because chickens usually fell to the women.
Yeah.
You know, they tended to be closer to the house, smaller. You know, the women would need the eggs for cooking. So when the guys were out in the fields doing like all the guy stuff, the chickens would kind of fall under the woman's
purview.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Did your mom? Was she in charge of the chickens at your house?
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah. Yeah, because my dad was a teacher. She was at home, so.
Yeah. I read that you're a master gardener, but you're not that great at it.
Right. Yeah.
I appreciate your humility.
That is true. I waited till we moved to Maine because I knew ultimately wanted to be there. And I thought I'll take the course when we get there because it, you know, the course is very environment specific, you know, climate specific, whatever. So I waited. As soon as we got there, I enrolled, loved it, learned so much, and still just am really pretty terrible at gardening.
Yeah.
I just don't have a green thumb. There are certain things I can do. I can do garlic really well and grow herbs really well. So I tell my husband, like, when the apocalypse comes, we'll be trading, like, chicken eggs, garlic, and herbs for, like, whatever else we need. Because I'm good at that.
Right. But not veggies. Those you're just going to the farmer's market. Yeah.
Just, you know, I love the planning. I love, like, sketching out the garden. I love buying the seeds. I love planting the seeds. And that's kind of, like, where it ends. I don't like the weeding and the maintenance and the bugs and the...
Well, one thing you clearly like is writing. Since you're incredibly prolific, you have 9 books.
Yes.
And you have like 3 different newsletters. I guess one of them is like your blog. But still, how do you have the time?
You know, that's a really good question. And it is just me. I love when people email me, you know, and they're like, oh, Lisa and team.
Yeah, you're like,
it's just me. I'm a little bit of a control freak and like a type A. And I've tried to work with people. And I just find it's easier to do it myself. What I do at the end of each year is I look back at what I'm doing. And if something isn't earning me money, like a good ROI, or I don't love it, it gets dropped. You know, you can't do everything. And I just try to like realign at the end of each year and say, is this something that's going to get me where I want to go or not?
Yeah.
And if it's not, it goes, you know, and it's so freeing to just concentrate on the things that, I mean, if I love something, I don't care if it makes me money at all. You know, if I just love doing it, because you need that to recharge. Yeah, and just kind of not a 5-year plan, but just make sure that I keep going in the right direction.
Yeah. I always think of it as moving the needle. Like, is this really going to move the needle? And I feel like in the beginning of your career, you tend to do many more things that maybe do not, but because you're never sure.
Or you feel the pressure.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's doing this, everyone's doing that, everyone's, you know, and I mean, a good majority of the people that anyone follows or reads or whatever, like they're not really doing it full time and earning a living. So you can't look at somebody and say, oh, they're killing it. This is what I should be doing, because you don't really know the behind the scenes.
True. So your Fresh Eggs Daily website, where you where people find sort of backyard chicken raising advice, as well as you have a TV show, Welcome to My Farm on PBS. Can you tell us about the website? And also, does the website have your recipes as well?
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. So Fresh Eggs Daily is my main website. And I ran that for like 9-10 years, whatever. My hub of everything, links to everything, whatever. Social media is Fresh Eggs Daily. And then when I decided to kind of pivot into cookbooks, because I always kind of secretly wanted to be a food blogger. I mean, my first ever job that I wanted was to be the person who took the photographs for the Friendly's menus.
Oh, I love Friendly's.
Remember those And they had like the sundaes and the...
Oh my gosh.
We would go and it was like this beautiful full color. And that was my first...
I'm from Boston, so I'm a Friendly's girl. Like I even have a note to talk about the Friendly's fish-a-majig with you.
Okay.
So we will get to that.
We will get to that. So, so that was the first job I wanted to do. And then I don't know what happened to that. But anyway, I always secretly wanted to be a food blogger. And then I've had recipes on my blog. I've always loved cooking, baking, whatever. Then COVID came and I said, you know what? Like, we might all die. I want to write a cookbook. So I hired an agent. Like, I researched a little bit, hired an agent, wrote a proposal. He pitched it out. HarperCollins gave me a book deal. And I was like, what? I mean, a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
I did not have a food blog, food content on social, like none of that. So wrote my first cookbook and I thought, you know, I really probably should have like a recipe blog. So I started Fresh Eggs Daily Recipes, which is linked to my main blog. The idea was that it was going to blow up and I could, you know, stop talking about chickens and just go food all the way. Did not happen.
Yeah.
So yes, I still have that. I moved all my recipes over there so people who just want the recipes have that.
Yep.
But that Maine blog is it. I mean, that's
the moneymaker.
Yeah.
Is that a disappointment to you? Like, do you wish you could focus more on food and less on chickens, even though you love them?
Not really, because as you know, working on cookbooks is all consuming. So I can't imagine working on a cookbook and also pumping out recipes for a blog. I think it would be a lot of work to really get it to the point where it overtook my first blog. So I would rather use my energy to keep writing cookbooks. And I think the reason that my first cookbook sold so well was that if you wanted my recipes, you had to buy the cookbook because I'm not sharing recipes every day. You know, so I think a lot of people give away a lot for free and then they come out with a cookbook and people are like, well, it's right here every day on Instagram, whatever.
So on the other hand, though, if you're not sharing before your cookbook comes out and people don't know who you are, no one's going to buy the book because they don't care about the like. You know what I mean? Because maybe people bought the book because they know you. And
I'm sure they did.
Yes. Yeah, so it didn't. They didn't care. They were just like, "This is so cool that she is now a cookbook author. Exactly. I want a piece of her."
Right, right. No, that is true. And part of the idea of the ultimate plan behind the cookbook was, if you raise chickens, I'm pretty sure you know who I am at this point. You know, because I've been around for so long and so visible in the area, whatever. And I wanted to expand that to maybe people who didn't have chickens and maybe were thinking about it or never thought about it and then run across me. So the cookbook was kind of opening up to the whole world.
Yep. Before COVID, and when you were like, oh dear, I better write my book, this could be the end, were you cooking all the time? Like, do you cook every night for your husband?
Yeah.
Are you baking all the time for him?
Definitely cooking every night. You know, when he retired and we moved to Maine, I said, I'm not a short order cook, so I will not be making 3 meals a day. Like, who has time for that? I don't have time for that. You know, you're on your own for breakfast. Although I do usually cook eggs or like whatever. I'll cook us both breakfast. Lunch, you're on your own, and I always make dinner. Look forward to it, glass of wine. You know, leisurely cook whatever I want. He eats anything. He was in the Navy, so he'll eat anything. I didn't bake as much as I really wanted to because it wasn't my job and I work a lot, you know.
And then it would just be the two of you eating it. Not everybody wants to have a cake sitting there on the counter for a week.
Yeah, or I'd throw it in the freezer or whatever. So my third cookbook, which I can't really say much about now, but allowed me to bake more, and it was my job, and that made me so happy because then I could spend all day baking.
Yeah,
I was like, it's my job now.
I was going to ask you about that. Your third book.
I have to do this.
Yeah,
so
that's so great. I read about a certificate in recipe development that you have from the Cordon Bleu, and I wondered, what is that certificate exactly? That just means that you went to the Cordon Bleu and got a degree there?
Actually, again, during COVID, because I was going out of my mind, I was like, well, you know, it was online because a lot of the courses they turned to online, and it taught you how to write a recipe, which I think paid off because my editor has commented how many times my recipes, like when I turn in my manuscript, is pretty clean. You know, all the ingredients are in order. If you use something twice, it says divided. Like it's all very consistent, whatever.
Yep. And I really learned that there.
Yeah, I learned that there.
Yep.
And it was great. It was a lot of Zoom. I mean, there was a girl from Australia. There was someone from Italy. But we had to look at recipes and figure out what was wrong with them. Create our own recipes, and they would critique them. It was just a really great course to take.
That sounds great. And it wasn't cooking or baking. You weren't doing
No.
Yeah.
There was another one that I really wanted to take. I think it was pastry baking. It was virtual, but then you had to do like a 2-week in-restaurant.
Stage.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I can't really do that.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that one.
And sort of taking that class turned into that first book, Fresh Eggs Daily. It's very egg-focused, but it's like a cooking and baking book. It's not like, oh my God, this is an egg book. Do you feel that way?
I bought probably every egg cookbook out there when I was researching it, used on Amazon or whatever. And so many of them were just a recipe and you just throw an egg on top. And I was like, well, nobody really needs a cookbook for that. So I wanted recipes that the eggs were really incorporated. The book is probably about half baking because, again, I love baking. And eggs are in everything.
Yeah.
But then there were some people who said, like, we could have done without the baking part because we know eggs are in baking. Like, we wanted more savory. So, again, in, like, the back of my head is, like, a purely savory egg cookbook at some point because I still have, I mean, as soon as my mom found out I was writing an egg cookbook, every recipe she ran across.
Oh, my gosh.
Cut it out. I would get envelopes full of egg recipes, you know.
I love her.
Or she'd call me up and be like, Molly A just made whatever, you know, find the episode and watch it, you know. Eggs are just so versatile. But I wish I had done all savory because, you know, baking, it is kind of a given.
You're a 9-time book author. 7 of them are on raising backyard flocks. Is that correct? And the kids' book, Let's Hatch Chicks.
Yeah.
I mean, Lisa, you've done it all. We're about to talk about your new book, which is so great. But tell us first about your natural poultry products.
Yeah, that was really exciting. I was using some products with my chickens because I knew I wanted, keep them healthy. So probiotics and Seek Health and Brewer's Yeast and stuff, garlic, whatever. And I was using them from a company that they were developed for like horses and goats and dogs. And I finally said to them, can you please put a chicken on the label? Because I keep recommending these to people and they think it's the wrong product. So the company said, why don't we just do a line for you, like white label for chickens? Perfect. So we did that, I think, back in 2018. Got it up on Amazon, on Chewy. And then I wanted to get into retail because I'm always like, big picture, right?
Yep.
And I realized there's no way I could do that myself. I mean, it was hard enough just to handle like 90% of my aggravation was dealing with Amazon and Chewy. So I found a distributor who was going to help me with the retail wholesale part of it. And we started talking. And then finally, they just bought the product line in 2024, which was the best decision I could have made because I was getting so stressed. I wasn't enjoying it. And that was the whole end of year. I was like, you know what? This has to go, So I sold it. I could never be happier. I'm still like creative director. So I still have input to like new products. Like we just released electrolytes. They got me into Tractor Supply. So it's in retail now. And I can kind of just enjoy the good parts of it and not be in the weeds with like Amazon.
Well, my husband has chickens, and we live right near Tractor Supply. So I am going to tell him to buy your products.
Yes.
I didn't even know it was an option.
Yes. There's like a cute little display right by the chicks this year. That's kind of like, I had talked to Tractor Supply years ago about collaborating on a line of products because I was doing tours with them and stuff. Long story short, never happened. So this was kind of like a dream come true, even though I'm kind of a step away from it now.
But you're like on the label. It's yours.
I'm on the label, yeah.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is there's a QR code on the label that goes right back to my blog.
Very
so
nice.
I think that's the biggest mistake so many people make is that they don't have a blog or a website or a static hub where they can point, here are my books, here's my social, here's this, here's that, because that's never going away.
There's the blog, and then you have 2 newsletters, both on Substack?
No, one is on Substack that I just do Sundays. I feel like it's like old school blogging.
Yeah.
When you'd be like, my mom came to visit me this weekend.
Yeah.
The daffodils bloomed, and like the journal.
Do you
type.
put in a recipe?
Sometimes a link to.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
I just do like a little quick, like a 5-minute read. And then I have it's like an automated, goes out 3 times a week. It's like through my blog network, and it gets to know people and what they've been searching on the blog. And then it puts together like 5 or 6 articles similar to what they were searching for. So everyone kind of gets something different.
Your new cookbook is called In Season, influenced by your Scandinavian roots, your upbringing in New England, your life in rural Maine. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, so I wanted to write another cookbook, egg cookbook, because I just love eggs and eat them all the time. And there were so many more recipes. And my agent said, sequel books don't usually do very well. So let's do farm to table. And I said, I hate that. I would have loved that 20 years ago, but it's so overdone. So he's like, well, let's just pitch it. Fresh vegetables, eggs, whatever. So we pitched it. They, loved it, bought it. And things change. Like what the deal is not what the book ends up being. So we kind of were going with farm to table, and I was still hating the idea. But then I said, well, you know what? This is kind of fun. I love using fresh, produce and berries. And I was loving the recipes I was creating. And then someone over at HarperCollins said, how about In Season? And we focus, like each chapter can go through the seasons. I was like, I love that. I really love it.
It's great.
So that's what it ended up being. And then I wasn't completely done with the recipes. So then I had to go, now I got to come up with summer soups. Great. I had to make sure that each chapter had, at least something for each season.
Yep.
But I do. I like how it came out.
Yep. Is there like a gateway recipe that you think people should begin with? One that's like sort of indicative of the vibe of the book, but maybe not crazy hard if people are...
So I really was never like a salad person. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not one to go to a restaurant and order like a salad to just start.
I read that. You like some fruit. You like some nuts. You like some stuff.
Right. So when I was like, I have to have a salad chapter in a like basically produce cookbook, right? I had like a Caesar salad recipe. That's like the only one that I ever made, or a wedge. I like wedges. And then I said, well, what do I like? What do I like to eat? I like to eat berries and cheese and nuts. So I started putting them in salads and then making these really great dressings to go with them. I was like, you know what? I think I'm a salad person now. And those salads, like you could have it in the summer or as a side, but you could add like seared salmon. You could add some soft-boiled eggs on top, or like chicken, and make it a full meal, like with a protein. So then I was like, okay, salads aren't so bad. So I would say start with the salads because the pear salad, the nuts, I mean, so good.
Oh. I have to shout out one of the recipes. As I said, I grew up in Boston, and so I went to Friendly's a lot growing up, and Friendly's fish-a-majig.
Yeah.
And you have, in your book, haddock sandwiches with cheddar cheese and lemon aioli, kind of like a riff on the fish-a-majig, which is probably going to be the first thing I make from your book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I've actually since seen some recipes and people have put fish, cheese on fish sandwiches.
Yeah.
And they get so much hate for it.
I
People are
know.
like, ew, that's gross. And then there's always one person who's like, have you never heard of a fish-a-majig?
Yep. Oh, my God. They were so good. All right. Now we're going to talk about the Finnish oven pancake with ricotta, honey whip, peas, and asparagus, the traditional Finnish dish called pannukakku. So it is similar to a Dutch baby. Can you sort of tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, and every time I do post a picture of one or talk about it, people say, oh, Dutch baby. And I'm like, no, pannukakku. Every culture has kind of their own riff on things, and this is the Scandinavian, basically like popover or a Dutch baby. It's kind of the same concept. You're using eggs to create some lift, almost souffle-like kind of, and baked in the oven, and it poofs up, and it's just beautiful.
Love. So similar to popovers, Yorkshire pudding, the batter puffs up, turns golden in a skillet. That's a little unusual. It's typically baked in a square pan. Why are you baking it in a skillet?
Yeah, I mean, basically, usually Dutch babies are baked in a skillet, and the pannukakku is baked in a square pan or a 9x13 or something like that. That was actually during the photo shoot. Aesthetics, and they said, well, let's do it in the skillet. So I'm changing the recipe, but I mean, it works in anything. You can do it in a cake pan. You can do it in whatever you want.
Both your mother and grandmother made them for you when you were little, or just your mom?
Yeah. I mean, my great-grandmother made them like everybody made them. It's one of those things. I mean, my grandmother did make regular pancakes too, but it's one of those like breakfast things.
Yeah.
You've got eggs, you got flour.
You make one.
And we got milk.
Usually sweet. With the way your mom and your grandmother
they
would
made
make
it. Very traditional. With
what would they put on it?
Like maybe just a little bit of powdered sugar, maybe like maple syrup with it. But it's got so much butter in it.
This one has an interesting sort of sweet, savory flavor profile. Can you describe it?
Yeah, I've been playing with them a lot because I make them a lot. So I wanted to use like spring peas and fresh asparagus and kind of make it like that. But then I wanted something kind of like creamy because it wasn't going to have cheese in it. A lot of times I'll put cheese in them. So I came up with this whipped ricotta, which I thought was so great with the spring vegetables underneath, vegetables, and then like a honey mustard drizzle, which I love. I love like the savory.
And the ricotta
tart.
has some honey in it too. Yeah, so it's a teeny bit sweet.
Right.
Because I was thinking you could maybe even leave off the veggies if you wanted and just do the ricotta honey whip, maybe with some berries, and then you've made it sweet.
Lemon curd.
Yeah, so good.
I like lemon curd, blueberry jam.
So good.
Yeah, it's so versatile. It's kind of like a blank slate.
All right. So first things first, to make the pancake, we are going to whisk some eggs and some room temperature whole milk in a large bowl. So I have a couple of questions. Do you have a favorite type of whisk?
Just a regular old
whisk.
And yeah. For that, I have one of those Dutch. Is it a Dutch? Like it's round.
The bread whisk?
That I use for like thicker, batters and bread stuff like that. But no, just a regular balloon whisk. Yeah.
Regular whisk. Eggs, are they large or medium? Does it matter?
We have chickens. They're whatever size come out of the chicken. I mean, large. Most recipes are written for large.
Yep. The milk is room temp. How come?
If you add cold milk to eggs, it gets all curdly and not good. But I like to add just a pinch of salt also when I'm whisking the eggs because it breaks down that protein bond and it really makes the whites get in with the yolks a lot better so you don't get the streaks.
Yep.
Like there's nothing worse than that, like one streak of the white that doesn't mix in. And just a tiny pinch of salt, it really, I mean, even when I'm making scrambled eggs or omelets, I just add a tiny pinch of salt and it makes it so much smoother.
My egg wash is an egg and salt.
Yes.
For just that reason. I mean, it seasons, which I like, but mostly because it breaks down the white.
You don't want that big glop of white.
No,
yeah.
You do not. What kind of large bowl are we looking at? Do you like glass? Do you like ceramic? Metal?
Mine are all ceramic.
Yep.
Farmhouse Pottery in Vermont.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love their, I mean, even when I'm not, because I don't really shoot recipe videos, but even when I'm not, I like should pretend that I'm doing a TV show and I like everything to be pretty. Like whatever. So that's what I use.
Yep. We're going to whisk the eggs and the milk until well combined. Then in another small bowl, we're going to whisk some all-purpose flour and some salt. What kind of all-purpose do you like? are you?
Flour. I use King Arthur.
King Arthur?
I mean, whatever. I live in Maine. They're in Vermont.
Yep.
I use King Arthur.
And is the salt kosher? Fine sea salt?
Yeah, I use Diamond.
Diamond crystal. We're going to add that flour mixture to our egg mixture. We're going to whisk until smooth, until no lumps remain. Kind of a silly question, but why do you think smooth is important? Because sometimes I read recipes and sometimes I write them where the popover batter, for instance, or the Dutch baby batter is slightly lumpy.
Yeah, and it's for pancakes too. I think when you buy like the box of pancakes, it says it can be lumpy. I mean, I don't like it because if you have lumps, that means you have clumps of flour. And at some point, when they get heated up, like they're going to burst and you end up with little pockets of flour. I mean, that's why you let it sit too. I want to make sure the flour is hydrated.
Yep. And so you, for extra insurance, you like to press the batter through a fine mesh strainer to remove the lumps, but you don't require it.
Don't I do that every time? Of course not.
Yep. And how should we picture the batter at this point?
Thin pancake, pretty much.
Yep. You say that we can also assemble this in a blender or with an immersion blender. Okay, now we're going to let the batter rest 10 to 15 minutes while the oven heats up to 425. And you just, I think, answered this question for us, but remind us why we're resting.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the flour absorbs the liquid and I mean, you can do it overnight, if you want to make it the night before. I mean, it takes like a second to make the batter. But if you wanted to make it the night before and put it in the fridge, and then I think it's going to take longer to come back to room temperature than it is to just make it that morning.
You wouldn't bake it with cold?
I wouldn't bake it cold. And, I've actually never tried that, but I probably should. But I can't imagine that would work very well.
Yeah. I wondered about the timing here because, like, my oven to preheat to 425.
Oh, yeah. Mine takes
like 40 minutes.
Same.
So can you just let the batter sit for as long as it takes for your oven to preheat?
I mean, that's normally what I do is turn the oven on, then start getting all my stuff out.
Yeah.
And
but it's okay if the batter keeps resting on the counter. So after it's rested, and I think this is right before we put it into the oven, we're going to add some butter. Salted or unsalted, either one is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. To a 10-inch cast iron skillet. I think you like Le Creuset, I read in your...
I do.
In your
like
tools.
Yeah, I find them a little bit... Well, I have the enameled cast iron, which I really like, but I find the other brands, cast iron is heavy.
Yeah.
Like my wrist is not that strong, and it's really hard to... I don't use a lot of cast iron. I know that's kind of like sacrilege, but I really don't love cast iron skillets. Yep. I mean, I use stainless steel mostly. I mean, even for omelets, I use stainless steel. As we were talking about before, you could use just a cake pan, or you could use any, oven safe.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to put that skillet in the oven to melt that butter for 4 to 5 minutes until the butter's melted. And that's once it's reached, we want to do that once it's reached its temperature because we're going to move fast after this.
Yeah, I think it says like, in the recipe, it says like 4 or 5 minutes before it comes to temperature, but who knows when that is.
Yeah.
Usually I wait till it comes to temperature, put it in, and then when I take it out, I just kind of like to brush the butter up the sides. I don't think it says that in the recipe, but I feel like it climbs a little better.
Well, you say you swirl the pan to evenly cover the bottom of the pan with butter.
Okay.
So once the oven's at temperature and the butter's melted, you're going to pour it into the hot skillet. This is always the part of making Dutch babies that I hate. But you take it out of the oven, put it on the counter, pour in the batter, and then go back to the oven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. It's annoying. I'm just thinking, is there a way to pull it open, pour it in?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, and then you don't have to take it in and out of the oven.
Probably.
Yeah. But I don't do that either.
No.
Yeah. But you could, peeps, put it into a pitcher and pour it in. Then you're going to bake the pannukakku until the pannukakku is puffy and golden brown, 16 to 18 minutes. Then you're going to remove from the oven and let cool for a few minutes. This was interesting to me because when I make a Dutch baby, pannukakku's cousin, I work so quickly because I want it to be huge and ripply and beautiful because that's typically what they look like when they come out of the oven.
Right.
But you like to rest it.
The picture in the cookbook, I mean, cookbook photography.
Yeah.
That photo was taken, it was probably cold by the time that photo was taken.
Wow. I wonder what about your recipe makes it keep those ripples. Mine always collapses.
Yeah, no, my popovers do, shrink a bit, and you want to you want those hot right out of the oven. Yeah. But this, it comes out, and I think Dutch baby too, but it's because the pan is hot, the oven is hot, you pour the batter in, it puffs so fast, and I think it just sets that top that's so crispy.
I wonder.
And then the rest cooks and it doesn't have anywhere to fall to.
I wonder if the difference is that I don't rest my batter. I wonder if that could contribute to it.
I wonder if the ratios are just off a bit too.
Maybe.
They might just, I I've compared so many recipes.
Yeah.
And
no, I did too,
it's
because I've made them a lot.
Yeah.
I did too. I thought it was a pop over whisperer.
I have like this Finnish magic that just makes it not.
Exactly. I'm not Finnish. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yep.
I don't know.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so 16 to 18 minutes, then we're going to remove the pan from the oven, let it cool for a few minutes. While the pannukakku is baking, we're going to steam or soft cook 2 eggs for 6 to 8 minutes. Please tell us your genius steaming method.
Yeah, someone told me years ago that her grandmother told her, you know how fresh eggs are hard to peel. You have chickens, the eggs are fresh, they don't peel because enough time has not gone by to let air get in to separate the membrane from the shell. Okay, so people have, stick a pan in it, use baking soda, use vinegar, do this, do that. All you do is you set a thing of water a couple inches steaming, put a colander over it, put your eggs in, put a cover on top, set your timer, take them out into an ice bath. I've gone down, collected eggs, put them right into the steamer, and they peel perfectly. The steaming and then into the ice bath. And
Is the ticket.
Some magic happens that the shell just separates.
So you don't steam eggs because you think that's a superior way of cooking them. You steam them because it's how you peel the shell.
Correct.
Ah, interesting.
But steaming also is a more gentle method, and you don't get that green ring that you sometimes get.
Yep.
And also, when you boil eggs, you know how they bounce? Like if you're boiling too, they bounce and they crack and then they leak out, and now it's a disaster. And steaming, they just sit really quietly.
It's so gentle.
Gentle in the basket. I will never, ever do it another way.
And you can do this with a bamboo basket, which I have.
You can do it with
steaming dumplings.
Yeah.
So we made the eggs while the pancake was baking.
Right.
Now it's out on the counter, and now we're making our honey ricotta whip. Because I thought, could you make the honey ricotta whip first?
Sure.
Before you even started?
Yeah.
So now we're going to make the ricotta honey whip. We're going to add some ricotta, some olive oil. Is it extra virgin? And is there a brand you love?
Oh, I go back. I've been using that Olio Pero lately. I just found a Maine brand called Fiore, and he sent me some samples that I'm eager to try. I mean, I just use like whatever. A good quality, though.
And the next ingredient we're going to add is honey. So you have a reason why we are measuring our olive oil before we measure our honey. Can you tell us?
Yes. And you do this as well. When you're using honey or corn syrup or whatever, it's going to stick. So if you do something, in oil beforehand, measure your oil out and then pour your honey in, then your honey will just slide right out. Although you do something even cooler where it wouldn't work for this recipe necessarily, but like you have your flour and you just sink your tablespoon in and you pull it out and then you fill the divot with the honey, which is cool.
The only problem with that tip of mine is that very rarely are you putting an insanely sticky ingredient into flour. It works with sugar. It works with brown sugar.
Okay.
It is great. If you have to add like molasses or honey or maple syrup to brown sugar, take your tablespoon, press it into the brown sugar, leave an indentation, and then pour in the liquid ingredient.
Yeah, that's one of the hacks that I've seen that I'm like, that is clever.
So we have added our ricotta, our olive oil, our honey. Now we're going to add some lemon zest and some lemon juice. Going to put this all into a food processor or a blender, puree until smooth and creamy, and we're going to season with salt and pepper. And then I thought this was an interesting recipe choice. Like you write half a lemon for the lemon zest and the juice. Did you worry that if someone used a whole lemon, it would be too much?
It was too runny. I did that, and then it was just
good to know.
Yeah, it was way too runny.
It's nice when a recipe writer, there's a reason for the things they do, because not everybody does that. So I appreciate
And also
that.
halves, I know halves are annoying.
Yeah.
But I always keep lemons, limes, oranges in the freezer.
Yeah.
I buy them on sale, or if they're going bad, I'll just cut them in half or cut them in wheels or slices, and I freeze them. And then they're so easy to zest. Yep. But also you can, put it in a cocktail or a glass of water, or you can
bring it to room
it
temperature before squeezing it?
Well, for juicing, you would have to let it sit to room temperature. But for the zesting, kind of like ginger, you can just zest it frozen.
I do that for ginger. I've never done that for lemons. That is a really good tip.
And they're so expensive. Like you buy the bag of lemons, you don't use them all, and they're starting to go bad.
Yeah, I keep them in the refrigerator, but they do get hard.
Yeah, no, just freeze them.
Oh, that's smart.
But I cut them into all different shapes, too, because I might just want, wedges for this, or throw it in a glass of water or whatever.
I'm a wizard. So we're going to assemble the pancake. We're going to spread the ricotta honey whip on the warm pannukakku, top with thinly sliced asparagus, spears, peas, fresh basil, and sliced scallions. This was my idea, that you could not put that stuff on. Maybe you have that on the side as a salad, and then you would have a sweet one.
Yes.
If you were me and you have a sweet tooth.
Right.
Then in a small bowl, we're going to whisk. And again, would you do this at this point in the process, or would you have made this ahead of time?
I would probably do it all while it's baking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a small bowl, we're going to whisk some honey, some mayonnaise, some whole grain mustard, some champagne vinegar. Now we're going to add water, 1 teaspoon at a time, just to get it to a drizzling consistency. We'll carefully slice our eggs, arrange them on top of the pancake, drizzle with the honey mustard dressing and additional olive oil if desired, garnish with our asparagus tips, season with salt and pepper, cut into slices or wedges, and serve warm.
Oh my goodness, it sounds like you're going to spend all day, but realistically, it's like a 20-minute recipe.
Of course.
If you do everything, if you get your batter made, your oven preheated, and then you do everything else while it's baking, it comes out and you're done.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Lisa. And I just want to say that you are my cherry pie.
Oh, you're so sweet. It was a pleasure.
That's it for today's show. Don't forget to follow She's My Cherry Pie on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And tell your pals about us. You can find today's recipe at cherrybomb.substack.com. She's My Cherry Pie is a production of the Cherry Bomb Podcast Network. Our producers are Carrie Diamond, Catherine Baker, and Jenna Sadu. Thank you so much for listening to She's My Cherry Pie, and happy baking.